Greetings, Twitter. Greetings, X. I wanted to go live with you guys here for just a few minutes, for a little bit. I have been trying to review and prepare a live stream with respect to the what I call now the ongoing topic, which is the Texas SB4 immigration lawsuits. A lot has happened since last week, or since the last time that I talked live about it, and I've been kind of trying to prepare some material because I wanted to further examine this lawsuit as it's proceeding in appeals. And unfortunately, with the Easter holidays, I had a lot of commitments that arose that I could not get out of. So it's forced me to delay and set back some things. But I'm hopefully going to finish my prep work here in the next day or so. My goal is to try to do something live on the weekend, Saturday, maybe Sunday afternoon, to talk about this case. But there was something that occurred yesterday, and between yesterday and this morning, I believe it was, that garnered my attention, and I felt necessary to go live here momentarily and kind of make a clarification, and that is with respect to there was oral arguments yesterday with respect in the Fifth Circuit Court with respect to the lawsuit. Basically, they were a continuation of the arguments that were started back on March 20th. There were some questions that the judge made to the attorneys representing the state of Texas that they could not answer. And they said they would get back with them with the answers. And I guess this was their way of doing it, scheduling another round of oral arguments where they answered those questions. Now, one of the attorneys in the lawsuit made an interesting statement. And basically, I'll explain what it is here just momentarily, but really they made this statement, and the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, of the state of Texas, came out later on the same day yesterday, and he issued a statement to the effect that what the attorney said was exactly and entirely the opposite of what they meant, is basically what he's saying. The attorney said, and these were the words that they quoted in the argument. I had a chance to listen to the recording of all the oral arguments for both the 20th of March and yesterday's. And that's one of the reasons that it's kind of delayed me a little bit, because I'm also, as I'm going through the lawsuits, I'm reading the lawsuits, the appeals, and listening to the arguments. I'm trying to gather myself so that I can prepare, to explain what my layman's view of the lawsuit is. But the statement that this attorney made in the oral argument yesterday was to the fact that he says, to be fair, he says, Texas may have went too far when they created SB4. It's not an open admission or concession directly saying that they did or they didn't. Now, the Attorney General responded because he said that a lot of media news networks were going off on it, saying, okay, well, that the state of Texas openly admitted that they went too far. Now, I have not had a chance to review what these news networks said. I'll be totally honest. But what the Attorney General said is that it's quite the opposite. Texas may have not gone too far. And the clarification that I want to issue is this. And this is one of the 2 points that I wanted to talk about real quick on here. And that is, the first point is the actual clarification itself. That the Attorney General is inaccurate or incorrect in saying that it is quite the opposite. When the when the attorney representing Texas made his statement, he's basically saying that he says we're not admitting it, but there may exist or there is a possibility that we did. He's opening up the thought process to say that, well, maybe there was a mistake that was made, or maybe it is possible that this occurred. Okay, so for the Attorney General to come back and say that it is entirely the opposite is factually incorrect, because basically what he's doing is he is openly denying what his own attorney representing him is saying. You can't say one thing and mean another in this case. I mean, it doesn't work that way. So for him to say that is not necessarily accurate, because he cannot change what his attorney meant. If he did that, I mean, it would probably play a huge difference in the lawsuit as it stands now. Another thing that he said, and this kind of miffed me a little bit, because knowing the history of the Attorney General, for him to say that is, in my opinion, kind of hypocritical. And that is that he said that none of these news networks even bothered to contact him to ask him about this statement. Well, in hindsight, if anybody knows the Attorney General of the state of Texas, and a lot of Texans do, and a lot of Texans will have to admit or will corroborate what I'm about to say, because it is accurate, is that the Attorney General for the state of Texas, he refuses, why, and I don't know, but he refuses to address the media. He refuses to, I mean, and when I talk about the media, I'm not talking about these conservative news networks like Newsmax, RSBN, Fox News. I think OANN is another one, and I do believe that News Nation is another as well. That they cater more to the conservative elected official than they do to anybody else. And so when I'm talking about these news medias, I'm talking about mainstream medias such as Associated Press, ABC, NBC, MNBC, CBS. I'm not necessarily talking about, but I could include CNN, which is one of the more controversial ones for conservatives. And he has yet to appear on any of these. It's like he's basically locked himself or hid himself in his own office, the office of the Attorney General, to refuse to speak to them. So, I mean, in all honesty, these news platforms, they don't even need to request information from him or a response from him, because they know for a fact they're not going to get an answer. They never have, and they may never will. So that's the whole pretense. And it's sad that our Attorney General here in the state of Texas has resulted into hiding behind the doors of the office in which he holds, and not addressing these media outlets like he's supposed to as an elected official. As an elected official, he is here to serve the constituents of Texas. He's here to serve Texans, the state. And by showing this form of bias with the media, he's showing that he's serving more his party platform than he's serving the Texans that elected him. He doesn't have, and frankly, and it's unfortunate that I have to say this, but Ken Paxton does not have the balls to confront all these news networks. He doesn't have the balls to confront ABC News, to confront CBS News, to confront MSNBC, to confront NBC News. Not even CNN. if I were to go that far, which I don't expect him to acknowledge them. He discredits these media because he says that they carry the progressive liberal agenda, and that is not necessarily the case. Even our governor, Greg Abbott, it's rare to see him, go on any of these medias that I've just mentioned. Matter of fact, to say in Ken Paxton, an instance, he doesn't even frequent, or he doesn't even. My apologies, my internet cut out. But with respect to our Attorney General, he doesn't even address the local news stations in Texas. I have yet to see him. I'm from Houston. I mean, I have yet to, if not rarely, ever seen him on ABC 13, which is ABC, KHOU in Houston, which is CBS. I mean, he may have appeared a time or two. I don't know. I haven't even seen him on KPRC. I haven't even seen the Attorney General on Channel 2 on CBS, on any of the channels, for that matter. I don't know what he thinks. I don't know what his modus operandi is, I guess you could say. The fact of the matter is, he's avoided the media. And for him to demand or say that, these medias haven't contacted me for a response is ludicrous, because if he doesn't dare have the balls to confront them or to open himself up for an interview with them, how can he expect them to come to him in a moment like this? It's ridiculous. That's what it is. I mean, I would assume that if the stream would have been from anybody else, it wouldn't matter much. But this here is coming from a Texan, an honest, good Texan. And for me, as a Texan, to comment about him in that way, it shows how bad the situation is. So basically, and I'm not going to go off on any further tangent about Ken Paxton and the press, because that's a whole different issue for a whole different day. But suffice it to say, my point here is that for him to say that what the attorney representing Texas said is exactly the opposite of what he meant, it just blows my mind. It's crazy, because I mean, you cannot flatly deny what was said and say it means the opposite when your own attorney that's representing you is opening up to the possibility that maybe this could have happened. I mean, how do you go and say, how do you go and say, there's a possibility this may have occurred, to saying, oh, that's not what that means, it means something else. It makes no sense, is what I'm trying to get at. So that's the bottom line. Is what I wanted to talk about, was to set the record straight on that what the Attorney General said with respect to it being the opposite is not entirely correct. And the verbiage that he said by saying it's exactly the opposite doesn't correlate. It goes against what his own attorney stated in the courts, and I think he by saying that, he's doing more damage to the state of Texas in this case than he's aware of. That's, I think, my honest opinion with respect to that point. As far as the appeals arguments, I've been listening to them. It's been pretty interesting, in my opinion, to see where they're coming up, what the deal is, because and without getting into too much detail, because I want to leave this for when I actually do my analysis. Basically, what it appears to be coming down to is that that the United States is trying to preempt everything because they're saying that there's two basic concepts to this lawsuit. One is the what did he call it? Criminal law element of it, I guess. What is that? I'll have terminology when I do the live stream this weekend, hopefully. Is the criminal determinability, and then you have the removal or penalty in the second concept. And what they're saying is, well, if we nullify or we block the criminal portion or criminal aspect of this bill, the other part is null and void. The other part it cannot function like it should. That's more or less kind of the concept that I'm picking up on this, and it's going to be interesting to review this and go through it with respect to what's going on, because we're going to look at the idea is when I do the live stream, I want to look at the history of not only the case going on in the appeals court right now, but I want to look at that versus what the federal judge said when he issued the injunction a while back, and compare these to the other lawsuits that are in the courts, which are the two lawsuits that have to deal with the border buoys and the concertina wire. And there's a lot of common factors in that, and I want to look at those and then make a comparison to see exactly, because I think when we look at all these things, you're going to see a pattern, and you're going to see we're probably going to see more or less where this case may be headed, or where these cases may be headed. So we'll wait and see. Hopefully I can get all this done, and I can do this live here on my X feed this weekend. That's my goal, if I don't get snagged by any more personal commitments between now and then, because we're already on Thursday. So that's the bottom line, and I thank you for your time. Feel free to post your comments. I would like to hear what you would think about what I've said about the statement that the Attorney General made against the statement that the representing attorney for the state of Texas made in the appeals court yesterday morning. Feel free to comment. If I can answer you back, I will. Have a good evening.